All right, next question. Now we got Moshe here. Hold on. Let me take that comment off the screen there. All right, Moshe ben Machman, and for those that don't recognize, he is using as his moniker the name of the famous rabbi, the medieval rabbi Moses ben Nachmanides, otherwise known as Rambam. So Moshe here, evidently a post-Christian, Talmudic, rabbinic Jew, takes his shot at the New Testament by saying the topic should be, where did Jesus ascend into heaven? And he gives us three options allegedly found in Mark, Luke, and Acts. According to Mark, Moshe tells us Jesus ascended from Galilee. According to Luke, he ascended from Bethany. And according to Acts, he ascended from the Mount of Olives. And then he says, when this does not make sense, how in the name of common, and I guess he left out the sense, maybe because he was giving us a clue that his question lacks sense, and we'll see why in a moment. But he says, when this does not make sense, how in the name of common sense can the doctrine of the Trinity make sense? New Testament is completely unreliable. Okay? New Testament is completely unreliable. All right, Moshe. So Moshe thinks he's Rambam Redivivus. However, and I don't know if you guys can hear the rain pouring outside. If you can, I hope that's not a distraction to you. But while I stridently disagree with the real Rambam, he was decidedly a more rigorous thinker than our current instantiation of him, our would-be contemporary Moshe. First, Moshe, according to his question, seems to think that there are three places presented in the New Testament from whence Jesus ascended. But notice that two of the three locations are not even different. Okay? Bethany is on the southeast slope of the Mount of Olives facing east. So presenting Bethany and the Mount of Olives as two different options is like asking, do you normally sleep at home or in your bedroom? or it's like asking, do you wear a yarmulke on your head or do you wear one over your parietal bone? If the Mount of Olives is on the southeast, or excuse me, if Bethany is on the southeast slope of the Mount of Olives, then they're not two different options. If Luke in Luke 24 says Jesus ascended from Bethany, and then the same Luke in Acts 1 tells us he ascended from Mt Olivet, those are not two separate options. Okay, so that leaves us with two options. Okay, so setting aside Moshe's embarrassing error of basic geography, all while talking to us about common sense, we're left with the two remaining options given to us by Moshe. Bethany, according to Luke, or Galilee, allegedly, according to Mark. Now, as for the first, that Jesus ascended from Bethany, according to Luke, Moshe actually got this one right. So kudos to Moshe for getting at least one out of his three options right. Okay, Luke 24, verse 50 says this, and he led them out as far as Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and blessed them. Okay, so follow this carefully. I want you to see how precise Luke is here. He led them out as far as Bethany, meaning Jesus led them out as far as Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and blessed them. While he was blessing them, he parted from them and was carried up into heaven. Okay, so Luke is very explicit. Jesus led them out as far as Bethany. He lifted up his hands in Bethany and blessed them. And while he was blessing them in Bethany, he parted from them. So very clearly, according to Luke, Jesus did ascend from Bethany. And, of course, since Acts 1 tells us it was from the Mount of Olives, we have a consistent testimony from Luke. What then does Mark's gospel say? Does it say that Jesus ascended from Galilee? Now, if it says that Jesus ascended from Galilee, or really anywhere other than Bethany or the Mount of Olives, then we do have a clear contradiction. Okay. Now, remember that Luke tells us, between Luke 24 and Acts 1, he tells us that Jesus appeared to the disciples on many other occasions over a period of 40 days. So it won't be sufficient if we read in Mark that Jesus appeared to the disciples in Galilee. What we need to see in Mark is Mark telling us that Jesus ascended from Galilee. Okay, so what do we actually see in Mark? So here I'm going to share my screen with you. Let me pull up Mark 16 and share my screen. All right, so here is Mark 16. And let's read this carefully, folks. Okay, the reference to Jesus ascending, hold on a second. Let me get rid of this. All right. The reference to Jesus ascending is found down in verse 19. So then, when the Lord Jesus had spoken to them, he was received up into heaven and sat down at the right hand of God. Okay. Now, obviously, if this question were put to somebody who takes the currently popular view that verses 9 through 20 are not part of the original transcript of what Mark wrote, then this wouldn't even be an issue for them. There wouldn't even be a need to address this question. But taking it for granted that verse 19 is what Mark originally wrote, let's follow the flow of the chapter and see if Mark actually tells us that Jesus ascended from Galilee. Okay, verse 1 says, when the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Salome bought spices so that they might come and anoint him. Very, very early on the first day of the week, they came to the tomb when the sun had risen. They were saying to one another, who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance of the tomb? Looking up, they saw that the stone had been rolled away, although it was extremely large. Entering the tomb, they saw a young man sitting at the right, wearing a white robe, and they were amazed. And he said to them, do not be amazed. You are looking for Jesus, the Nazarene, who has been crucified. He has risen. He is not here. Behold, here is the place where they laid him. But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you. They went out and fled from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had gripped them, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. Now, pause there for a moment and just notice that in verse 7, the angel at the tomb instructed the women to tell Peter and the disciples that he's going to Galilee and they will see him there. And the women fled from the tomb with astonishment, and fear had gripped them, and so forth. Now notice what it says in verse 9. Now, after he had risen early on the first day of the week, he first appeared to Mary Magdalene. Okay, Mary Magdalene. So this is referring back to verse 1. He appeared to Mary Magdalene. Okay. He first appeared to Mary Magdalene, from whom he had cast out 7 demons. She went and reported to those who had been with him while they were mourning and weeping. Okay, nothing is said here about them being in Galilee yet. Okay, remember, the angel said, tell the disciples to go to Galilee. Okay, we're not yet told that the disciples ever or have gone to Galilee. We're only told that the women, or Mary Magdalene, went and reported to the disciples where they were mourning and weeping. And then it says, when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they refused to believe it. After that, he appeared in a different form to 2 of them while they were walking along on their way to the country. Okay, so again, we're not talking about an appearance of Jesus in Galilee. This is quite evidently the account that Luke gives us of Jesus appearing to 2 men on the road to Emmaus. right? So the two men on the road to Emmaus are what Mark is referring to here. But in any case, it's not talking about Galilee. And then it says they went away and reported it to others, but they did not believe them either. Then it says, afterward, he appeared to the 11 themselves as they were reclining at the table. Where? Right? Where does it say that he appeared to them? Does it say Galilee? It doesn't say Galilee here, does it? And the assumption would be that it's referring to where they would ordinarily meet, the place where the other Gospels mention Jesus appearing to them on Resurrection Sunday. And then it goes on, and he reproached them for their unbelief and hardness of hearts because they had not believed those who had seen him after he had risen. And he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. He who has believed and has been baptized shall be saved, but he who has disbelieved shall be condemned. These signs will accompany those who have believed. In my name they'll cast out demons, they'll speak with new tongues, they'll pick up serpents, and if they drink any deadly poison, it will not hurt them. They will lay hands on the sick and they will recover. So then, and here I have to make an observation about the grammar, but in the New American Standard, it says, so then, when the Lord Jesus had spoken to them, he was received up into heaven. Now, literally, the Greek here says, so then, after the Lord Jesus had spoken to them, he was received up into heaven. So the grammar indicates that the ascension takes place at some point after Jesus had said these things to the disciples. We're not told how long after. So even if it were the case that this final part of Mark 16, where Jesus is speaking to the disciples, is to be understood as Jesus saying this to them in Galilee, it still wouldn't follow that it's saying that Jesus ascended in Galilee. But even in any case, it certainly doesn't say that Jesus said these things to them in Galilee. We are never told of an actual appearance to the disciples in Galilee in Mark 16. We're only told that the angel told them to go to Galilee and he would appear to them there. So, sorry, Moshe, but in fact, there is no discrepancy between the biblical accounts, and so what you thought didn't make any sense happens to be a result of your own failures when it comes to basic geography, something I suspect Moses ben Nachmanides had a better knowledge of, and you're also not a very good or close reader of the biblical text, because Mark doesn't tell us that Jesus appeared to them in Galilee. All right.